Okay. Hi there, folks. Back. Okay, coming back on for the live stream outdoor chat. Right now, I'm just chatting. I was talking about this mouthpiece. Can you see it? Is it going to focus? Ooh, look at that. This is the Long Island brass tuba mouthpiece. It's well, I don't know if I can unscrew it at this point, but oh, there we go. They have two pieces. I don't know why they made it that way. I'm guessing you can just change out the shank. I don't even see a size or a marking on it. They don't say it doesn't seem to have a size or a marking on it at all. But it looks like a pretty deep mouthpiece with a nice deep throat on it. Doesn't want to focus, does it? Ooh, look at that. This is the Long Island Brass Company tuba mouthpiece, or one of them, with a bunch of my lip sledge on it. You see that? And then here's the other piece. It's kind of a cool design. It seems like it. Let's see. Is it going to focus? Hide my face. Hide my face. It wants to focus on my face, not on this. But maybe if I. Come on, magic. Come on, magic. Sony camera. Magic Sony camera. Look at that. There you go. And now I'll put it back together. Hopefully I won't drop it on the stone floor. I'm outside. There's so much pollen out here. I can barely breathe. I'm not even a typically allergic person, but it's covering everything. There's pollen everywhere because things are coming to life. Yeah, you see that? It goes together like that. Isn't that cool? So I guess you can change out that shank. Although it seems to fit fine in my American shank tubas. But yeah, I tried this on the Mac brass tuba. It works great. It's kind of a heavier type of mouthpiece. I mean, I wouldn't say it's heavyweight, but it's like medium heavyweight. And at first, I thought it was a little too big, but when I got out of that Mac brass horn, it really started playing nice. So when I first put it on my Eastman 632, didn't love it. But I'm not a very particular mouthpiece person on the tuba. For some reason, for me, playing tuba mouthpieces they don't make a whole lot of difference. I mean, I can tell the difference between a huge one and a small one and certain sounds they make, but and you kind of have to warm up and get a feel for one, whatever one you're playing, before it does a lot of good for what you're trying to play. But other than that, I went through all of high school and my first few years of college on Miraphone C4 mouthpiece, and didn't even really know that there were other listed. Barely at that point, and now I probably have a few dozen different tuba mouthpieces. So, well, welcome to my yard. It's my backyard here. It's full of pollen and stuff. I'm under the gazebo here, and that's my forest back there. And I'm just hanging out. Like I was saying in my last stream that got interrupted because it was being buggy on my computer here. I can close this window. That might make my computer happier too. I came out here for a Zoom meeting earlier and thought, well, it's already set up here, so why don't I just bring the tube out and do a live stream? I haven't been doing any in my studio because my studio is so hot right now because the HVAC is not working. Hopefully they're coming tomorrow to reset the computer in this brand new Linux system I got for my entire home. We've placed all the HVACs in my entire home here recently, and some of it works, some of it doesn't. So, where are you guys? If the 3 people who are watching, now we have 4 people, chime in the chat. That's the only way you can communicate with me at this point. Trying to set something up in my studio, if it ever cools down in there, to be able to take phone calls from people if I live stream from inside the Tuba room in the Tuba Dylan studios up there, upstairs in there. So someday that might be pretty cool. I'm trying to, I think you should be able to hear me okay. South Texas, wow. Is it warm down there right now? I figure it probably is. It's super nice here, out here. I mean, we're talking 74 degrees, not a cloud in sight, and a huge amount of pollen coming here. So very hot. Yeah, I bet. South Texas. I guess that used to be Mexico at one time, huh? Yeah, but I like Texas. Texas is a great state. You have a lot of people. So there are certain places in America right now where everyone's moving, right? You've got Florida. You've got Texas. And many places in the South. It seems like people are fleeing the northeast of the United States and the entire West Coast due to COVID and strange restrictions and cost of living prices and home prices and not being able to see their favorite symphonic tubist play on stage. That's probably the main reason everyone's fleeing the big cities. Probably not, but yeah, I'm happy to chill with you guys out here and talk about tubas, life, or anything. I haven't been doing my live streams lately. My wife says, look, if you're ever going to tear away from your career and make it big on YouTube, you should go live every day. And I'm like, well, I don't really care about doing that. But part of me says that would be fun to do that all the time, but I just don't. I don't have the motivation to do it, frankly, but thought it'd be nice to broadcast from out here and just see how it goes. I'm getting a good, strong Wi-Fi signal. Of course, the Wi-Fi repeater is right up the top of my house over there, so I'm not super surprised that the Wi-Fi is good here. You know, I don't know what's going on. What's going on in the news these days? What's going on in the tuba world? I could go to the news page. This doesn't have anything to do with tubas, but apparently the pandemic is at a critical point, says the World Health Organization. Colorado is the new hotspot. And the CDC says that Michigan needs to close once again. Why don't people just get their vaccinations? And if you want to stay safe, stay home on your own. Oh, wow. It looks like there was another school shooting. That's very sad. Tennessee, somewhere in Knoxville, Tennessee. Looks like an officer was shot. Only 2 reported people were injured or shot. So I guess it could have been worse. What's going on in your neck of the woods? Play tuba in school, but IDK if I feel like doing it I don't know if I feel like doing it anymore because of my new band director. Oh, what's wrong with your band director? Is your band director not friendly, or they're not playing the songs that you like? I mean, not enough Billie Eilish tunes, or what's going on with the band director? I was blessed to have some of the very best high school band directors probably in the country. One of my high school band directors, you can look him up on Google. His name is David Sears, and he now works for NARIS, or the Grammys. I believe he's a vice president for the Grammy Awards now. And he runs a program called Grammy in the Schools. And he was one of my high school band directors. He directed the brass ensemble and wind ensemble and the marching band. And he played, when he was younger, he played trombone with the Temptations. And then he went into teaching in the LA City schools, which is where I went to school. So I went to a really cool high school. It was called the Hamilton Academy of Music. Hamilton High School Academy of Music in Los Angeles. A lot of hip cats went to that school. He says, if I had a new band director every year, and they are usually nice, but this one's calling the band names and kicking people out because they forget a couple of notes. Wow, well, everyone forgets a couple of notes sometimes, so if he's literally kicking you out for forgetting a couple of notes in playing with your band, how's he going to have much of a band? Especially tuba players, like somebody who's willing to hold a big, heavy tuba and walk around and march with a big old tuba. I mean, come on. Like, you'd hope that the band directors would understand that the tuba takes some effort, and you're just putting in effort, just holding it. Am I right? There's ants crawling all over my camera equipment and on my computer here. What a weird place to hang out online. I'm like in the forest right here. Well, kind of. Told me that I was a horrible player and should stop playing because I struggle with high notes. Oh, give me a break. Did he really say that? That's kind of too much, don't you think? It's not encouraging. Like, you want to teachers need to encourage their students. They need to be friendly with their students and outgoing and hopefully inspirational even. I mean, I had some teachers that were just super inspirational to me when I was in school. So, well, that's rough, man. I don't know what to say. If you struggle with high notes, there's some things that you can do to help play your high notes better. For one thing, try to work on a proper low note warm up so that your chops are a little bit, say, flexed and relaxed when you start playing, and that helps me play high notes. It also helps me play high notes to work on power playing, what I call power playing, which is playing things super, super loud and pushing and crescendoing through all of your phrases towards the end of the phrase or the main note in the phrase before, as a wind down for the day. This is a little trick that Tommy Johnson taught me as far as his playing, because he never had time to warm up before he would get to the studios. And so he would play a really hardcore warm down the day before, where he'd play really, really loud, even just a few notes per breath. The kind of loud that makes your chops tingle like crazy when you're done playing. And then the next day, his chops were warmed up and ready to go. And I've played like that quite a bit, and that definitely helps me. Yeah. I'll play it. When I was playing before, there were more people tuning in. Now I've got one person because I'm talking who wants to hear a bald tuba player in the middle of the woods talking about band directors. Well, you do, so that's nice. But I'm going to switch the microphone back and maybe play another something from this book or whatever. Let's see what else. This Grigoriev book. Can you hear me? You probably can't hear me that well. I'll speak up. This Grigoriev book is not my favorite as far as melodic stuff, but it just happened to be there when I came out here. So here it is. I don't really know these tunes or anything. And most of them aren't really tunes. This is kind of just exercise. But it does play over a good range for the C tuba. So good thing to practice. Let's see. Oh, wow. Welcome to my yard. This is my yard. Seventeen minutes. I don't know. Can you hear me? It's probably really soft now. There's not really anyone watching, so I might just click off because I'm getting pollen all over my face. Ooh, wow. There's a really cool spider that just landed on the wire attached to my camera. There's spiders out here. Hello. Hello. Hey, Steve. Hold on. I'm going to put on the talkie mic. Putting on the talkie mic. Okay, switch to the talking mic. Hey, how's everyone doing? What's up, Steven? How's it going? I'm out here in my yard hanging out because I had this whole setup ready for a Zoom call and figured I can probably go live on YouTube with this. But it's not ideal. But right now, my studio is like 86 degrees when I have my computers on because the HVAC is not blowing cold air into there, which is just terribly awful because I have, video editing, music supervision work to do. And I've been just sweating it out at night trying to make it. It's not too hot outside, so that's good. At night I can open the windows in there. But the HVAC people are supposed to come tomorrow. Anyone else have problems with newer HVAC systems? Uh, we built this house in 2013, and they put in top of the line Lennox HVAC systems that both completely failed and broke, which is terrible for like a big fat tubist who doesn't like to be hot, right? So as they broke, I put in they our AC guys convinced us to stick with Lennox, even though $20,000 plus of AC units busted within just 7 years. So we redid it with even better Lennox units that are super computer regulated and super huge and able to handle my big house here and everything. And I specifically had them make it so that my studio can be on a separate zone, has its own thermostat, and I should be able to. They told me I could get it way down to 60 degrees in there. Now that's kind of crazy. That's David Letterman territory, but um, I got it down. You could get it down nice and cold, no problem, and everything was working. Uh, and all of a sudden, the computer started whacking out. I think there was like a firmware upgrade for the thing, and it decided to just not work in that zone, which to me is the most important zone because that's my work area, my studio here at home. And the whole thing broke. Well, it didn't break, but the computer broke. So they came and they said this is not talking wirelessly to this, and this is not working for this, and we have to order all new. I guess you call it mainframes or all new like digital parts to replace the computers within. I mean, it's all under warranty because it's new stuff. And so here I am outside where it's nice and cool out here, but there's so much pollen. I don't know if you guys are having that issue, but here in southern North Carolina, I'm surrounded. You can see it. I'm surrounded by forest here. I have acres and acres of forest around my house here, and it's just spilling pollen into the universe everywhere. My family, they all suffer from allergies, so they're walking around. They can barely breathe when they go outside. My son's like, I can't breathe out here. Um, I don't suffer from allergies too much, but I'll tell you that the pollen coats everything. It's almost like ash or something. You get this yellow coating on everything. You probably can't see it, but you just rub your finger on any surface and this just yellow pollen comes up. Yeah, I do. I do have a lot of string instruments. I love string instruments. Guitars, uh, I'd almost say the guitar is my favorite instrument. Um, I ended up playing brass. My dad was a great cornet player, and somehow ended up playing trombone and then tuba. But when I was a little guy, I played violin, and I was pretty good at it, even though I cheated a lot. So when I was a kid, I took violin in, I think, the second grade is when I started playing violin, and I had a pretty good ear. And so we had this whole class, and they taught violin, and they were teaching notation and how to put the fingers on the violin and all that. And I was way sharper a kids have magnificent minds. I don't know. Over time, kids, if you're young, enjoy your mind now because over time your mind will start to fluctuate in its powers. But when I was a kid, I played violin and I was pretty good at it. And I faked reading music so I could hear. They could play something one time, and I could hear it. I'd go home and I'd remember what it sounded like, and then I would just figure it out with my fingers and come back and then I'd pretend like I was reading the sheet music, um, which was a terrible habit because I actually when I in junior high when I started playing trombone, I started doing the same thing. I had a good memory for music, and I had a good ear for picking up things. So I was a terrible sight reader, a terrible reader because I didn't understand even how notation and rhythm worked through written music. Um, and over time, as I went on and got into high school, and then was in high school, I started gigging and um, I started kind of learning the hard way, being thrust into situations where I had to sight read and couldn't necessarily rely on the decent sight readers around me to be able to hear and guess at the rhythm. So that was when I started learning notation. Was all the way in high school. But yeah, strings. I love strings. I have several guitars in my studio. I collect guitars. Um, I have electric guitars and acoustic guitars. Acoustic guitar is my favorite. Uh, my favorite acoustic guitars would probably be my three Yamaha acoustics that I just adore. So I have a Yamaha LL26 handmade Japanese acoustic guitar, which is just my favorite. Um, and then I have a copy of the old Red Label Yamaha guitars that came out recently. It's like the FGX something, really nice guitar, and that one you can plug in because it's got pickups in it and all that. Um, and then I have a Yamaha 12 string. I have about 8 of the Blueberry guitars, which are incredibly interesting instruments that are handmade in Indonesia. And they're hand carved with all these different carvings on them. And when that company first came out, I thought those instruments looked beautiful, and it was kind of a gimmick. They're like, we carve these little grooves into the soundboard, and it resonates better. And I love the resonant sound that comes from a guitar when it's in tune. Guitars are never really in tune, more or less. Some are better than others. Um, but I have several Blueberry guitars, which I really enjoy too. Although over the years I have kind of neglected them humidity wise and things. So pretty much my whole Blueberry collection is not that playable and in need of service and setups because they're the ones that sit like when you see my studio, you see these guitars on the wall back there, and those are Blueberry guitars. And unfortunately, they're neglected. Always maintain your instruments, folks. Brass instruments are much easier to maintain. Just keep them well oiled and use the right oils if you're going to let them sit, and use the right oils if you're going to play them a lot, and keep them well lubed, and you'll get a lot out of your instrument. So, yeah, but I love guitar, love it, and I'm absolutely terrible at it. But it's it's so difficult. Like the trumpet, the trombone, the tuba, you only have to play one note at a time. You know, Wessex Review helped me buy a Wessex contrabass trombone, even though I'm not a tubist. Do you like America Schiller tubas? You know, I haven't played on a Schiller tuba, but I believe that Schiller makes a horn similar to this one I've got here. This is the Mac Brass. I don't really, not totally sure of the model number, but this is their double C copy of the Yamaha 621 double C, except that Mac Brass customized this one with the fifth valve, right? And this is that Mac Brass. I think I have a review on YouTube with this one. Um, Schiller is not an American company. They outsource the building to a Chinese company. I think it's Jimbao, but I'm not totally sure about Schiller. Haven't played on any Schiller. I take it back. I have a Schiller rotary valve flugelhorn um, that I bought for $100 brand new. maybe 10 or 12 years ago. Um, and it plays okay. It didn't, it wasn't the worst piece of junk ever, but right now it's more of a decoration in my office at work, which I haven't been to in 14 months because of COVID. I'm sure it's still sitting there. This big office at work full of editing equipment and everything that I haven't really visited since almost February of last year. And that has a Schiller flugelhorn in it, a rotary flugelhorn. Um, that I just bought on a whim because it was on eBay. I think they just started it at 99 cents or something, and it only bid up to $100, and I bought it. And for $100 to get something that's literally crafted into an instrument, unless it's an absolute piece of junk, it's kind of a good buy. Yeah, but I don't know what to think about a Schiller tuba. Like this tuba, this Mac brass tuba, um, he's got better quality control over the horns he receives from China, and he helps design them. Like this is a unique instrument. Like the 621 Yamaha does not have a 16-inch bell, but Tom McGrady said that he wanted to have one that has the regular 14-inch bell and one that has the 16-inch bell, which was brilliant. Um, just like the Roger Bobo 620 or 8 whatever it is 822, that Roger Bobo custom Yamaha tuba uh, is modified from the stock one. And so I guess they said Mac Brass, he said, I'm going to make this sort of as a in between. It's like a C tuba, but it's using some of the things from the Roger Bobo model, uh, some of the things from the Yamaha model, maybe even some modifications that he gave them on his own. Uh, and as it turns out, considering that you can get one of these horns from Mac Brass for about $3,000, maybe a little more these days, I'm not sure. Um, that's amazing. That's amazing. Um, it's a little bit heavy for a tiny tuba, and I think that's part of the whole Chinese thing. It's not made with sheet brass; it's a factory-made instrument, so different parts are made on some sort of assembly line, a factory thing, and the brass is thicker. Yeah, it's good and bad. I mean, the thicker brass doesn't necessarily wreck the sound or anything, but I would love it if it was a little bit lighter, just for feel of playing it. I'm in a jazz class. RN, laugh out loud. I don't know what RN means other than nurse. So you're a nurse in the jazz class. So you're there so that when the trumpet players are hitting all of the double high C's after they play, you're the nurse and you go and you give them aid for their terrible troubles, right? No, I've seen you before, Danger. I know you're not a nurse that helps trumpet players. Trumpet players don't need or deserve any help anyway. You know. Um, but right now, what does that mean? Right now, right now. Oh, you mean you're in your jazz class like right now, as we speak, sitting there playing jazz music, watching a live stream of Tuba Dylan from his forest. Is that what's going on? That would be pretty wild. This is the live Tuba Dylan stream directly from my yard in the middle of pollenness. Oh, RN means right now. Oh, wow, that's some good lingo to know. So, like brands like Jim Bow and O'Malley and Schiller don't test horns like Wessex, John Packer, Eastman, and say Mac Brass. I would think that's right. I don't know exactly for sure about how all the Chinese companies distribute and work here in the United States. Eastman has an entire receiving factory in California where they take all of their instruments, and I know this for sure about their string instruments, but I think they probably do it with their brass instruments because that's a super, super high quality company. Um, Eastman's goal is to make professional instruments better than anyone else, not just cheap and inexpensive Chinese instruments. They are more affordable than American, Japanese, German instruments because they're made in China and the labor is cheaper there. But the Eastman company makes some of the very finest guitars, mandolins, violins in the world. And you have a lot of really great professional players that play Eastman. And now, even in the brass world, I don't know how many trumpet and trombone players are playing Eastman instruments. I'm not really sure about that. Um, that'd be interesting to see. But we know people like Chris Olka, uh, and I heard him. There's a video on YouTube of him playing a solo Bach at the IET 2019 that I filmed um, with just the microphone on my camera from the middle of the hall there, where he's playing an Eastman that they delivered to him in Atlanta that he had never played until he almost sat down and played that performance. And that performance is absolutely mind blowing. The way he can jump between the very very low contrabass register of the double C tuba, um, and articulate those notes. Now there's a lot of reverb on that recording because I was way back in the hall and whatnot, but that's amazing. Yeah, I guess they bought Shires and they have a partnership. So probably their trombones are picking up the Shires thing. Yeah, not only that, the Eastman company. Let me think. What was it? They also acquired. Oh yeah, they just recently made a deal with the. I think it's called Bourgeois Guitar Company in Maine, the state of Maine in the United States. Super, super high end handmade guitars um, by a guy up in Maine who is just an expert at tone woods and at tapping guitars and finding the very best solid top woods and side woods for his guitars. They just did a collaboration with Eastman, for lack of a better word. And I don't think Eastman bought them, but there's some sort of collaboration where uh, Eastman's going to be learning from them. And I think that even they at Bourgeois have like gone to the Eastman factory and looked at how Eastman does it because Eastman's, of course, is able to build some very very like absolutely world class guitars by hand in their factory in I think they're near Beijing, China, that are just world class. So Eastman's doing stuff that 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 no one's matching. I mean, they're sort of quickly turning into the next Yamaha because the Yamaha handmade instruments, like all of the pro Yamaha tubas, trumpets, trombones, guitars, you name it. They've got a pro level factory for that, where those instruments are handmade and meticulously tested and played by artists before they allow those out. And Eastman is doing the same kind of thing, and they're doing great. They're doing great. Oh, cool. Your dad and grandpa are guitar players. I am a terrible guitar player, but I do love playing it. I do. And I used to write songs. Um, won't talk about that. One time I had a semi hit song under a different name, but I won't even tell you. It's a secret. But I had a hit song a long time ago, back in the late 90s. Um, but I think guitars are great. I just had double carpal tunnel surgery done about maybe a year before the pandemic hit. So it's been about 2 years since I had the surgery done. And the carpal tunnel I had had for over 20 years. And it was just an absolute nightmare to play guitar with double carpal tunnel. And even tuba, like my hand would just die out playing even the brass instruments. But I could get away with it. I could deal with the pain to a certain degree when it came to the tuba, but when it came to guitar, my carpal tunnel was so bad that I just could not practice guitar for about 20 years. So after my carpal tunnel healed up, I started picking up my guitars again and realized that I had forgotten the little tiny bit about guitar that I had taught myself back in the 90s when I had a rock band, and decided to start learning it again in a totally different way. So, back when I learned guitar, I learned like I did as a kid when I played violin. I learned totally by ear and wrote songs, and I think I wrote some okay songs, but I didn't know what I was doing. And when I had a band, I had all these string players, and they thought I was a great tuba player, and I could communicate music through tuba and through things that I knew about music that way. But when it came to my guitar playing, they'd be like, "What chord is that? What are you playing?" And I literally have to listen to it and like figure it out through ear training because I didn't know the fretboard and didn't know how to play the scales really. So now that I've my hands have healed and I'm actually able to sit and play guitar for a while now without pain, I uh, I really enjoy it, and I actually started from scratch. So I'm like learning major scales and things on guitar that I never could play as a legit anything, and I'm really enjoying it. Like guitar is great. String, if you can learn a instrument, it will help your ear for your brass instrument. There's no doubt about that. Now, a fretted instrument's a little different, but if you can play a fretless instrument like a violin or a bass or a fretless bass, um, it's just so helpful to your ear in playing brass instruments because when you're playing a brass instrument, you're really playing a lot by ear. The whole Arnold Jacobs thing, the whole like play what you hear in your head. Don't concentrate on what you're actually doing when you play, but hear the music that you would like to hear as your own audience member, and try to make it sound beautiful and play what you hear in your head. And I find that playing stringed instruments definitely has helped me play brass instruments better, just because um, I learned a lot by ear on string instruments. So yeah, I don't do any of you suffer from allergies? Have any of you had any trouble now that it's spring? Like I really am out here and I'm getting literally snowed on by the pollen, which is in a way it's just a beautiful thing because it means that the bees are still alive and the earth is still spinning and the farmers can still get strawberries and yeah. It says how you play with them. How you play with them. I don't know what that means. How you play with them, Joe. Oh, play with what? The bees? Sometimes it's fun to play birds and the bees, but that's a whole nother thing. And I always recommend getting married first. Oh, guitar. Um, like how well do I play with them, or how often do I play with them, or I don't know. I don't know exactly what you're asking. Uh, I sure love playing guitar. Guitar is an amazing thing because it's a wooden tone box, and when those strings vibrate, they vibrate the entire guitar. So when you're playing an acoustic guitar, you can feel that vibration through your sternum and through your chest, and you hear it differently when you're listening to someone across from it, but it will sound all the overtones. It's kind of like a piano too. So um, you can if you point your tuba at a piano and play a note in tune, like right at that piano, especially if you hold the pedal down on the piano, you'll hear it resonating through all these overtones. And that's essentially what a guitar is doing with the string. It's vibrating, and then the top vibrates, and this resonance is filling the inside, and the sound, and the sound hole lets out some of that sound, but most of the sound's coming just from the resonance of the wood in the guitar. Where the tuba is different, it's like an amplifier for your mouthpiece, right? So you're passing that vibration through it, and it's like a big megaphone, and it's amplifying. Play along with guitar players. Yeah. I when I used to play in a band, I had a great guitar player, an absolutely superb guitar player. It was my lead guitar player. I was the singer, songwriter, uh, rhythm guitar player, and I had trouble communicating with him the weird stuff I was coming up with, and he was skilled. So he wasn't skilled at reading music notation. He could read tablature, and he was good enough at music notation. But my problem was that I would play chords that I literally didn't even know what they were because I didn't know the fretboard. So I would have to figure things out by ear in order to communicate to him that I'm playing a B minor seventh chord or whatever. I'm like, oh, this sounds great. It's in my song, but I don't know what it is. And then I'd have to like listen to it and or like figure it out on the piano to figure out what I was playing. Now I'm getting better at the fretboard. I don't still don't know it, but at least I can find the notes now, which is a good step in the right direction. I don't expect to ever become a rock musician again and or make record songs that way. If not, maybe just as a hobby. Uh, but I love it. I love the guitar. It's something you can because it's a band in a box. Yeah, unlike a tuba, it's just a bass note, and you just go boom ba boom ba boom ba. The guitar you can play the bass, you can play the mids, and you can play the highs, all in one instrument that you can carry in a little case. Like you can't bring a piano with you in a case, and of course, brass instruments you're stuck to one note at a time. So I like to think that if you're into the Bible, I love the Bible. It's got pretty much everything you need to know about life is between those pages if you read it. But the Psalms that are written by King David, they were played on this King David's harp or lyre or whatever you want to call it. And I think it was similar. I mean, it didn't quite look like a guitar; it looked upright, like kind of like a harp, but it had a hole and it was wood and a soundboard, and it had these gut strings, and it was a plucked chordophone instrument. So even going back to biblical times, where there were guitars. And by the way, weird fact, but this is something I've meditated about a lot. If you know the Bible and you know your history, Moses raised up a brass serpent in the wilderness um, to protect the Israelites from God's wrath. And if you go to that account in the Bible, I like to think that brass serpent that they were to look upon. Well, we know what a brass serpent is, right? Tuba players. Oh, it's dinner. Okay, I'm on the live stream, but I'll come in. Give me like 5 minutes. Okay, they're ringing the cowbell. They're saying dinner, dinner. My wife made. I think she made sloppy joes. I love sloppy joes. There's just sweetness to it, and this it's like hamburger meat with like sweet and sour sauce or something. I don't even know how to explain a sloppy joe, but if you haven't had a sloppy joe, you should try it. A book called The 100 for Trombone. My dad has the same book for guitar. Oh, that's cool. That's pretty interesting. A crossover book between brass and guitar. Um, yeah, Joe. Maybe I'm gonna end the stream because when my wife cooks homemade sloppy joes, I cannot stay out here and talk to you guys. I got to go get it while it's hot. Uh, but yeah, if you can put in the description or in the chat here before it ends or after it ends, or send me a message, that book, um, the 100 for trombone. Well, I'll probably just search that, the 100 for trombone, if that's the title. I'll take a look. That'd be kind of cool. My daughter plays piano, so her and I have been playing along with each other a little bit, which has been really fun. Uh, I'm trying to get my son to play anything, even drums, but he still has, he's 8 years old and he has the attention span of a 4-year-old, which means he'll play an instrument he'll really want to play it, and then he'll play it for 2 minutes, and then he'll really want to play with his ventriloquist dummies. Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Yeah, good to see everybody. This was an impromptu outdoor live stream from the Tuba Woods. I hope the few people who are watching this or will enjoy it, and anyone who watches it later enjoys it too. Be kind to one another. Love God. Love your neighbor. I love all of you. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to go check myself for ticks and then go in and eat some sloppy joes. So love you all. Goodbye.